Iran has launched a missile attack on a U.S. base in Qatar. Tehran said the strike was in retaliation for what it called the United States, quote, aggressive and brazen, end quote, act against Iran's nuclear facilities. Tyrone Bowman live. So let's talk about this story on tonight as written in the Wall Street Journal. Iran fires on a U.S. base in Qatar as Gulf neighbors close the airspace. Iran launched missiles U.S. base in Qatar, officials said, prompting the UAE, Bahrain, and Kuwait to close their airspaces. The U.S. military intercepted missiles, and there were no casualties. Iran warned Qatar before Monday's attack on an American military base in the Gulf country, and President Trump said later in the day that the early notice, quote, made it possible for no lives to be lost and nobody to be injured, end quote, while indicating he hoped for peace in the region. In a post on X, Iran Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei delivered a firm message that Tehran would respond when attacked. His comments came after the U.S. launched weekend strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, joining Israel's attacks on the country's nuclear program. Israel continued to strike targets in Iran, but was looking to end its war soon, officials said. The UN's automatic agency chief said U.S. attacks on Iran's Fordow enrichment site likely caused, quote, very significant damage, end quote. Israel followed up with strikes to entry points to Fordow. Israel's attack on symbols of the Iranian regime, including a prison where political prisoners are held, was a signal to Iranians that the regime is fragile, said an Israeli lawmaker. Iran's response came after leaders in Europe urged Iran not to respond in a way that would, quote, destabilize the region, end quote. President Trump had given no ground on his demand for Iran to agree on the United States terms for peace deal. Trump on Sunday didn't rule out backing a change in Iran's leadership. So, what else do we need to know? Russian President Vladimir Putin met with Iran's foreign minister in Moscow, saying the strikes by the U.S. over the weekend weren't justified and that Russia was taking steps to help the Iranian people. The Iranian military official said Sunday strikes against the country's nuclear facilities had violated Iranian sovereignty, making the U.S. a partner to the war and it asserts legitimate targets. A half a dozen ships have diverted course on the way to the Strait of Hormuz, the crucial waterway connecting the Persian Gulf to global markets since Sunday. The U.S. warned about the threat of retaliatory actions due to the U.S. military strike against Iran, including hate crimes and cyber attacks. At the start of the year, Russian President Vladimir Putin met with Iranian counterparts at the Kremlin to sign a new strategic partnership to seal the budding alliance between the two countries that had spent the last decade trying to undermine the U.S.-led world order. Now, after more than a week of punishing Israeli and U.S. airstrikes, that partnership is doing Tehran little good. When President Putin met with Iran's top diplomat, Abbas, how do I pronounce this last name? I don't want to mess it up. I'm going to give it a shot. When President Putin met with Iran's top diplomat, Abbas Arghachchi, on Monday, the Kremlin leader gave a stony-faced assessment to the U.S. strikes. He called the strikes unjustified and unprovoked and said Russia wanted to help the Iranian people. Well, there's a lot going on in the world, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm trying to cover as much of it as I possibly can. Let me go to the comments section. Oh, it seems like this message has been retracted. Well, as always, thank you for watching Tyrone Bowman Live. Go to getting 2,000 subscribers. We're almost there, ladies and gentlemen. And with your help, we'll make it across the finish line. Thank you for watching. Kindly subscribe. Never surrender, never quit.